Why silence makes you powerful. What if the most dangerous thing you could do right now is say nothing at all? You've been trained your entire life to speak, to explain yourself, to justify your actions, to fill every silence with sound, every pause with words, every moment of stillness with noise. You've been conditioned to believe that presence means being loud, that intelligence means being heard, that confidence means never shutting up. But the most dangerous people in history, the rulers, the warriors, the philosophers who changed civilizations, they understood something you don't, something that has been buried beneath centuries of noise, distraction, and the desperate need for validation. They understood the architecture of silence. This is not a video about being quiet. This is about learning to wield silence the way a sword is wielded, with precision, intention, and lethal force. These are the 5 laws of silence, and once you understand them, you will never look at a conversation, a negotiation, or a moment of conflict the same way again. Law 1. The warrior who speaks last controls the room. Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman Japan ever produced, fought over 60 duels in his lifetime and never lost once. He wrote the Book of 5 Rings not as a manual for combat, but as a philosophy of psychological domination. And he said something so simple it sounds almost stupid. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. That is not humility. That is strategy. When you walk into a room and immediately begin talking, explaining who you are, what you've accomplished, what you think, you are handing over every piece of intelligence about yourself for free. You're showing your hand before the game has even begun. You're telling the room where your weaknesses live. The man who speaks first in a negotiation has already surrendered his position. The man who speaks last has already won. Silence is information asymmetry. While you are quiet, you're gathering data. You're reading the room. You're watching eyes flicker, watching gestures betray anxiety, watching people reveal in the torrent of their own words exactly what they fear and what they need. When you finally speak, you do not respond. You strike precisely, accurately, devastatingly. Begin practicing this now. In every conversation today, speak 10% less than you want to. Observe what happens. Watch people rush to fill the silence. Watch them offer you information you never had to ask for. Watch your own discomfort dissolve into power. Law 2. Your silence is a mirror, and most people cannot bear their own reflection. Dostoevsky understood something that modern psychology has only recently begun to quantify. In The Brothers Karamazov, his characters destroy themselves not through confrontation, but through the silences that exist between confrontations. Silence, he knew, is where guilt lives, where anxiety metastasizes, where the mind turns against itself. When you stop defending yourself against accusations, when you stop explaining and justifying and pleading, something remarkable happens. The silence you leave becomes a mirror, and people who are dishonest, people who are manipulative, people who are projecting their own failures onto you, they cannot stand to look into that mirror. They begin to crack. They speak more. They over-explain. They attack harder to fill the silence you have refused to occupy. You're not being passive. You're being geological, patient, immovable, like a stone that has watched empires rise and fall on its surface. This is the discipline that most people cannot achieve because it requires you to sit with the discomfort of being misunderstood, of not correcting the record, of watching someone believe a false version of you and choosing deliberately not to correct them. But here is the truth that the masters knew. Your character is not built in the moments when you defend yourself. It is built in the moments when you choose not to. Let your actions speak across years. Let time be your attorney. Let silence be your armor. Law 3. The mind that is never quiet is a mind that is never sharp. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire, the most powerful institution in the known world, while simultaneously fighting wars on multiple frontiers, managing a collapsing economy, and watching his children die. And every morning before the weight of the world descended on him, he sat in silence and wrote, not to the world, not to history, to himself. Meditations was never meant to be published. It was the private dialogue of a man who understood that the empire he needed to govern first was the one inside his own skull. Consider what you consume every single day. The notifications, the headlines designed to trigger outrage, the conversations that go nowhere, the ambient noise of a world that profits from your distraction. Every chore,